So the marine pollution definition and basic principles. Now, the Earth view from space appear like a lonely spaceship floating friendless in the blackness of space. This brings home the fact that the Earth and its natural resources are indeed all we have, and we must preserve it. Now, in the first lecture or in the introductory lecture, I show a video clip about how the Earth began. That God created most of these things very beautiful, they are in their natural state. Before, man began to increase in wisdom and now thinking, okay, all these things can be used for other things. He started killing animals, using as a, as a, they're using the skin, to make shoe. The horn of elephant, he used it to organ. So many things. And you notice in that video clip, at the end, when the man now said that, okay, I've achieved a lot, it's now time for me to relax. You see that all the things he created are there, but he could not enjoy it. Why? Because the effect of pollution on man. So that is to say that indeed, this is all what we have, the earth and the natural resources, and we need to preserve this. Now, environmental pollution has been recognized as evil that has been threatening our comfort on earth for a very long time. Environmental pollution control involves the analyzing and solving the problem of waste problem. Now, if you look at even our environment, it depends on where you actually stay in Lagos, although gradually there have been improvements. Whenever there is rainfall or serious downfall, that is when people will now remember, to drop all their wastes into the channel or the canal. So that will threaten the aquatic organisms and also block most of the canal and result in flooding. Now, environmental pollution can be defined in many ways, depending on the interest of the groups defining it. Now, many schools of thoughts have different way of defining environmental pollution. The way an ecologist will define it may be quite different from that of an engineer. Why? Because ecologists, he want to protect the ecosystem, the organisms. He doesn't want any organism to be extinct to the extent that, okay, there will be a kind of distort in the food chain. An engineer, he's also only interested in maybe in drilling the oil at the offshore. The only one that is concerned is the pollution of oil spill on the water. He may be less concerned about the breeding ground for the organisms. So he will define it to suit himself. So also other industrial operators, health workers or WHO have their own definition because they are more, paramount about the health. So they all try to define pollution to fit their specific needs and interests. Now let's look at the ecological view of pollution. How do they define pollution? Now, they defined it something which upset the equilibrium of the system. The moment the equilibrium is being stabilized or is not balanced, ecologists look at it as pollution. Any little variation in the ecological balance, ecologists will refer it to as pollution. So they define it as anything which brings about a reduction in diversity of an environment. That is the marine habitat and eventually destroy the balance of life. So you see that they are interested in the complete balance of the ecosystem. That indeed, the aquatic organisms are there in their natural state, no any increase in temperature, no thermal pollution, no variation in the level of heavy metals. You know, the breeding ground for the organism is not being disturbed. So they actually defined it according to their profession. Now, engineers may view it differently. Why? Because they are not ecologists, but rather they are engineers and they can only define it to suit their own purpose. So this is contrast to that of the ecologists that consider any man-made addition which is not ecologically compatible as pollution. Engineers see this addition as pollution only if and when they participate and immediately have adverse effects. So the moment there is precipitation, that is when engineers will define it as pollution. Now, it's very important to know that the engineers say that they are more realistic and more rational than the clean as possible approach, and they no change thinking of the ecology. So invariably, ecology, they don't want anything to disturb the ecosystem. But rather, the engineers will tell them that they are more realistic about it. If at all there is pollution, they will be able to clean it as soon as possible. But ecologists will look at it that no matter what, even before the cleaning, there must be a level of damage that will have taken place. Okay? So the engineering definition of pollution have at its core the well-being. That is the economic, physical, or social of humans. So therefore, not everyone view environmental pollution in the same light. Disagreement on the short and long-term effects may arise because many schools of thought have different ideas about it. So some feel pollution is not taken seriously enough, most especially the ecologists, while others feel government agencies have become too strict on the control of industrial and municipal discharges. For example, those who are actually using vessels, they will tell you that the government is too strict. Why all this regulation? Is it not just for us to move on the water? Are we affecting any organism as we are moving? The species, they will also, be running. But that's not the true case. In the process, they are disturbing the ecology and at the same time the breeding ground of the organisms. No matter what, spill of oil from the vessels can also destroy the organism and distort the food chain. Now, a definition that is accepted by all is difficult. Therefore, we need to strictly our definition to aquatic pollution. Now, legally, aquatic pollution can be defined as the addition of something to water who changes its natural quality so that the riparian's owner does not get the natural water transmitted to him. Now, it's not quite different from the aquatic pollution definition I gave you in part A of this lecture. But this only makes it a little simpler for a layman to understand. So it is, however, difficult to define what is natural aquatic system, since it can be polluted naturally and by anthropogenic activities. Simpler definition is that of Dodorov and Waring, 1957, who says aquatic pollution is an impairment of the suitability of water for any beneficial human use, actual or potential, by way of any foreign materials added hitherto. Bishop in 1973 gave an ecological, more accepted definition as follows. And he says, aquatic pollution as having a total effect of carrying an ecosystem away from its natural complexity and stability to a less stable state in which diversity is decreased and the self-regulating buffering capacity against change diminished. So this is the ecological definition, which rather is more acceptable. Okay. Now, let's look at pollutants. What are pollutants? These are substances or effects that adversely alter the environment. So that the moment there is a kind of alteration in the ecosystem or in the environment, we refer it as a pollutant. The significance of pollutant in the aquatic environment is modified by certain characteristics of running water. Most significantly is the unidirectional flow. Now, we have what we call the flow regime. The flow regime results in one, dispersal of pollutants, dilution of pollutants, and the biodegradation of materials. So also, this leads to self-purification mechanism of aquatic system. Some organisms have a mechanism for self-purification in their system. They will accumulate it with time, they will filter it out. Also, toxicity of some pollutants are modified by water quality. For example, heavy metals are usually more toxic to fish in soft water than hard water. Heavy metals are usually more toxic to fish in soft water than in hard water. So heavy metals also have detrimental effects on aquatic organisms. I could remember years back, maybe in 2007, I carried out a particular research on imported fish into the country. And we took samples from all the countries where most of these imported fish came into the country. And what we observed generally from the fish analyzed when we look at the heavy metals level. Now we discovered that there is high level of iron in mackerel, the one we call scrumble. Mackerel, the local people or people that don't know the difference, they call it Titus, but it's not Titus. It's mackerel. So the heavy metals that, I mean, the fish imported to the country that year at that particular point have level of iron. Now, someone may say that, okay, but they taught us that iron is good for the body, is good for hemoglobin formation. That's true. But when it's in high concentration, it results in kidney and heart failure and can destabilize the central nervous system, which can result to death. So that is the effect of very high level of iron in the body. So biologically, the susceptibility of species to pollutants varies between individuals of the same species. However, the effect of the toxic substance on an organism depend on the one concentration of the pollutant and the duration of exposure. Now, the concentration of pollutants we have adverse effects on the organism so quickly because of the high concentration. So also the duration of the exposure. Now, if you expose them to pollution, maybe between 1 day or 2 days, and you stop, there is a way of purification where they were able to accumulate it, and then with the influx of water, they can overcome that. But when the duration of exposure is being extended, there is what we call elastic limits. I want to believe at least you do a little physics, maybe in your secondary school. That's what we call elastic limit. Now, when you get to elastic limit, what happened? Yes. Let me see whether you are flowing.
It will be difficult to come back to the original state before
Okay.
elasticity was introduced.
Okay. Ojoku, what is elastic limit?
I think it has to do with like it expands to a point that it cannot be compressed.
And it cannot be compressed. Can you elaborate on that?
In other words, it cannot go back to its former shape.
Okay, it cannot come back to
Its
the
former, yes, the initial stage.
from an initial stage. Okay.
Yes,
So that
yes,
is
sir.
so the duration of exposure make the fish to get to elastic limit to the extent that the effects on them may not be reversed. Okay. Now, a low concentration over a long period of time has the same effect as a high concentration for a very short period. I think that statement is very clear. Do you understand with the explanation I make on elastic limit? Now, a low concentration for a period of time, that is the duration, the time of exposure, have the same effect as high concentration within a very short period. So another important property of living organism is one, their ability to concentrate materials within their tissues. Now, some organisms, accumulate most of these toxicants into their tissues. And with time, it diffuses. But some organisms have that, they don't have that mechanism. Therefore, substances which occur at such low concentration in water as to pose no threats through direct toxicity. Now, because it's at a low concentration, there's tendency for them to diffuse it, and it will not have any effect. That is if absorbed. And it can be accumulated in the food chain and affect the predators. Now, this process is what we refer to as bioaccumulation, when they absorb it and it's in their system. And from the primary producer to secondary producer to higher consumer, the accumulation will continue. For example, the higher primary producer will accumulate the heavy metals, then the primary consumer will consume it. Higher level of consumer also consume it before it gets to man. So that means the bioaccumulation of that organism can also get to man. So this is common with pesticides which are lipophilic, that is referred to lipid. Now, many of them bioaccumulate in the system. And that's why many countries, they banned the use of pesticide in agriculture. And in the first study, I talked about PS and NPS. What is PS? Let me see whether you are you are actually uh, following the lecture. What is
Point source,
P? Okay. What is NPS?
non-point
Yes,
source.
Ojoku. Okay. Okay. Now, let's look at the United Nations definition of pollution, or rather of marine pollution. The term pollution describes the occurrence and input of wastes and impact of this waste on the environment. So the UN definition of marine pollution is the introduction by man, directly or indirectly, of any substance or energy to the marine environment, resulting in deleterious effects such as hazard to human health, hindrance to marine activities, impairment of the quality of seawater for various uses, and reduction of amenities. Now, if you look at the definition of UN, because they are more concerned about the head of the organism and the head of man, they tailor their definition, to capture both organisms and man. Now, types of marine pollution. Types of marine pollution. Yes.
I was just thinking that's United Nations definition of marine pollution.
Yes.
It's the introduction by
Yes.
man. What is the introduction of the pollutants
Yes.
to the marine environment? It is by natural causes. Maybe let's say a volcanic eruption that flows into the
Okay.
water.
Now look at it. They say that the introduction by man, directly or indirectly, they are looking at anthropogenic activities of man. Now, they are not actually looking at the natural causes. We say that pollution can either be natural or by human activities. But here, from their own definition, they actually zeroed, their mind that most of the pollution we're actually having is out of human carelessness or activities. Let me give you a typical example. Very recently, there was a wildfire in California. Are you aware, Kalu?
Yes, sir. We are all
Yes, sir.
aware.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you know, if we want to define, we can say that it's a natural phenomenon or natural occurrence. But do you know that a school of thought is saying that it's out of carelessness? And it's actually because of human negligence. And it can be directly as the introduction by man. And what is the they are actually trying to bring out? Now, this is not the first time California will experience wildfire. Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, they are now looking at if it's not the first time, there must be a precaution or precautionary measures that ought to be taken. From the fact that US is more advanced in technology, they must have, you know, have a kind of means to actually control it. For example, how can it be controlled? California is just like a desert area. How many of us have been to the north before? Hello? Have you been to the north before? Anyone? Maybe Jos, Maiduguri, Sokoto,
Yes, sir. Medjugorje, sir.
Yeah, I've been to Adamawa.
Adamawa. Okay. Now, you notice two important things. Either in Maiduguri or Adamawa, you may notice increase in temperature to the extent that the temperature can be so intense that you feel very uncomfortable to go out sometimes. Now, when it comes to the time of Harmattan, it may go to the extreme. Now, when it comes to the time of serious wind blow, and that is why many people in the north, most especially Adamawa, Maiduguri, most of the local people in that area, you notice that they always have problem of they always have a eyesight problem, majorly because of the blowing of wind of particles in that area. Now, in that area, do you know that there may be a technology that can actually divert or prevent that?
Yeah.
One, by even planting some trees to prevent, the effects of that, or coming with technology, that will divert or reduce the effects on man. So the same thing applied to California. People were saying that since you know too well that is a dry environment, they can even make some ridges all around so that even when the fire is actually burning from the deserts, it will get to a point where it will not be able to cross into where people are living by making those heap of ridges or by piling big stones, just like the one at um, Bar Beach. I told you that years back there was a flooding that almost wiped away Victoria Highland before the government now, try to make a kind of heaps with stones to prevent the effect of flooding. So in essence, that one can also be carried out. So that's why the United Nations, they view it that indeed it's purely out of human uh, activities. And that's why they say that the introduction by man, directly or indirectly. Directly mean, okay, by anthropogenic activities. Indirectly, by negligence, not doing what they're supposed to do to avert the situation. That is indirect. Of substance or energy to the marine environment. You understand? So that is their own definition. And most importantly, they look at the effects on human health, effects on marine organisms, effect on seawater. So because they are actually more particular about the health of both organism and man. Although they also know too well that, okay, that may be a natural cause, natural disaster. But to them, it's very minute when we compare it to anthropogenic activities. Okay? So that is just that definition. I don't know. Are you very clear now, Kalu?
Yes,
Hello,
yes,
Kalu,
sir.
are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am clear now, sir.
Okay. So type of marine pollution, we have sedimentation, agricultural runoff, herbicide, pesticide, and nutrient, then energy, thermal and light, then sewage, fecal, coliform and nutrients, then solid waste, chemical, metals and radioactive substances, oil and biological. I think all these one we discussed them in the first lecture. So just for emphasis and additional information on types of marine pollution. Now, sources of marine pollution, we have maritime activities. So most of the maritime activities causes pollution, industrial activities, where we have inflow of pollutants from the industries. For example, oil and gas, also fishing activities. Then anthropogenic activities are allocatorial activities, recreational activities, surface runoff, then autochthonous activities. That is the volcanic activities. That one is natural. Then hydrothermal vent activities. So those are the sources of marine pollution. Now let's take them one after the other. Let's look at the marine sources. Only discharge from balanced water and bleach water during routine ship operation and illegal dumping of solid waste. Now you see most of the vessels, in the process of either maintaining their vessel, you see all discharge. Not only that, balanced water, many are not well screened. You see organisms are being transported from one region to the other. It's also part of pollution. And also dumping of solid waste into the water body. Most of these vessels, they can build, on water for months, and they will be eating. So their waste has been, dumped into the marine environment, which is very illegal under IMO laws. Then designated dumping ground at sea, dredge, spoil, old munitions, sewage sludge, fly ash, oil-based drilling mods, All those are sources of marine pollution. Then accidental spill from ships carrying hazardous substances like oil and gas. There are all sorts of marine pollution. Then what about from land-based sources into the marine environment? Although we discussed this in a part A of this lecture, 80% of non-biological marine pollution comes from land-based activities. Most obvious input via pipes discharging, then directly into marine water as sewage, industrial chemical, and food processing waste. Then what about in the riverine area? Riverine flow into the sea, carry pollutants from the entire catchment area. Okay. Now look at this chart. Look at the source and type of marine pollutants. Now, what is the percentage of oil exploration and production into the marine environment? Yes.
1%.
Okay. What about maritime transport?
12%, sir.
Okay, land-based discharge.
44%.
Okay. Then atmospheric input.
33%, sir.
Huh?
33%, sir.
Okay. So that is the percentage of all the discharge into the marine environment. Now, can you identify most of these pollutants? Yes.
Yes, I've seen radioactive substances.
Uh-huh.
I've seen solid waste.
Uh-huh.
I've seen industrial discharge.
Uh-huh.
I've seen oil spillage.
Uh-huh.
The last one, I'm not sure I know what it is.
Okay. Next person. Who can help with the others?
Waste disposals and some biohazards. The next one.
Okay. So those are the type of pollutant into the marine environment. Now, what can you say about this? Huh? These are trash from most of the fishing vessels. You can see their nets, abandoned nets in the water body. They are also source of pollutants into the environment. They are trash. The plastic bottle and what have you, they are all trash. And they also refer to as pollutants in the marine environment. Now, what do you understand by this?
I think it's the earth crying out.
Okay. Air crying out when the ozone layer has been depleted. You know, the ozone layer is no longer as thick as it was in the early 60s because of, you know, gases being released into the air. So it has effect, and that's why we are having some climate change that we're experiencing now. It's out of the pollution, and that's why the earth is crying that indeed there is a danger. And you see that most countries or even continents are taking climate change so serious and how to prevent it. Okay. Now look at this one also. What can you say about this chart? Is it clear? Can you see it very well? Hello, can you
Yes,
see the chart?
we can see, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what can you say about this chart?
It looks like a 3D design layout showing different aspects of, like, it's explaining like marine pollution, the different segments, like the way it's enlisted here. I can see the septic tank. I can see
Okay,
the capital developments, Marina Yacht Club, which is where those yachts park, I think, and
okay,
those small boats.
okay. So you can also see the canal developments, from the waste. So all these things enter into the water body. They are the source of pollutants in nearby shore waters. Okay. What about this? Yes, what about this? What are the sources of pollutants here?
Well, okay.
Are they coming from the animal waste from that building?
Domestic
I can
waste
say one of
and
the
agricultural
okay, the
waste.
cow is the one that is attributing the agricultural inputs of the waste that has been added to marine pollution.
There's the red arrow is an agricultural waste. That's like pesticides that are moving to the
Okay,
waters. Then there's industrial on
okay,
the other hand. Um, then the ones from the home, domestic wastes.
okay.
That's the mo-
Dolapo, I've not heard your voice. So are you here or you just on your device and doing other things? Which is Frego. Is that your
Yes,
full name?
sir. Yes, sir. Pego.
Okay. Frego what?
Onowa Popo.
Ah,
Onowa Popo.
okay. Dolapo, are you there? Dolapo is not here.
The one dropped a message that she's having network glitch.
Okay.
That's why she
Okay.
said the call to be recorded.
We record you, but be in class. I know you students. Okay. Have you heard about acid rain before? Have you heard about acid rain before? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Now, when most of these gases, uh, sulfur oxide, nitrogen oxide have been released into the atmosphere, they combined, with rain and result into what we call acid rain. So the formation of this and is out of human activities. So the the rain that will be falling out will be a little acid, it will be acidic, and that's why it's being called acid rain. So you see that it's human activities that actually causes uh, acid rain. Okay. So also here you can see the overview of our monitoring cycle and sources of pollution with nitrogen. So the release of nitrites or nitrogen into the air, it becomes nitrites, and when it reacts with water, it results in acid rain. Now here is oil and gas in the process of drilling. Look at the effect on the aquatic rate. Look at the effects. Okay, look at the effects on the aquatic environment. Now, this is the Bonga FPSO. During the process of drilling, they also release carbon into the air, which also, destroy the ozone layer and
So
make
this
ozone layer.
particular pollution can cause acidic rain, right?
Yes, it can also cause acidic rain. Nitrates and sulfur oxide, when it mixes with the water in the air, it causes acid rain. But this one also weakens the ozone layer. It weakens the ozone layer.
Mm. Okay, doc. Thank you.
So this is a drilling rig. In the process, there may be oil spillage, and at the same time, they also release some carbon monoxide into the air, which also pollute the atmosphere and also affect the aquatic organism in the water body. Now, this is a typical vessel moving and releasing gases in the water. Now, look at this area. Look at the level of pollution by human activities. And people are still living in this particular area. How many of us have been to Makoko before?
Hi, sir.
Okay. Although the level of pollution have reduced, but notwithstanding, when you go to the water, it's just like this. In that particular place. Is a level of pollution, and you see they are building the houses on top of the water. Now, this is anthropogenic activities. You can see plastic being released into the water body, causing pollution. Then look at it. Even the effect of soulmates. Even at Lagos here, we also have that effect in our water body. Now, this is Snake Island years back. Look at the level of pollutant. I think part of the place you are going to visit is Snake Island. So you prepare yourself during the uh, uh, field excursion. It's part of the area you are going to visit. Then Tinkan. At least many of you are familiar with Tinkan. Huh?
Tinkan Island.
Yes. And you can see the level of pollution in that water body also. Majorly from most of the vessels or cargoes that are bringing most of those goods. Now, this is point discharge. Hmm? PS, look at the level of pollution in this water body. Look at this one also. The pollutant have even changed the color of the soil and also the water. Is a high level of pollution. Can you see that the color has changed completely?
Yes, sir.
To completely brown color. Now look at the shore. Look at the level of pollutants at the shore of water. Look at it, most of ship vessels being abandoned in the water body. All these are as a result of pollution in marine environment and has a detrimental effect on aquatic organisms and on marine environment. So also look at here also. And now look at the canal. It's already been blocked. I will show you a video clip now. The effect of all this in our environment. Look at the use of plastics. Although in many regions, the use of plastics, have been discouraged. Look at the level of pollution in our water body. Okay. So we will stop here and we'll start from major marine pollutants in our next lecture. But before then, I will show you a video clip. Now look at that house with green roof. Look at, just pay your attention on it. You see what will happen. Now, what can you say about this video clip? Yes, I need your comments.
So, before we start, I just want to ask, is flooding actually man-made?
Eh?
Especially flooding. Flooding,
Uh,
is it actually man-made?
it can be man-made. It can also be natural occurrence. But
Wow.
majorly is caused by man. And the reason why we say that it's caused by man, you see some countries, they will be
Yes,
building house, dredging or sand filling. Go to Lekki area. Those areas are covered by water. There have been sand filled and begin to build houses on it. Invariably, they are driving the water back. And you know water, by the time it gets to a particular point, which we call the elastic limits, they will reverse. It will reverse. The same thing happens. When you begin to sand fill, you know, the shore of the water, and in fact, inside water. Go to Banana Island, they are all being sand filled. And that is the effect. Why we call it natural. I mean, human activities or anthropogenics. But you see, when we think about natural can also occur maybe during high tide. You know, that is what we call, the recycling or the mixing together of this high tide. In the process, can also result into flood. You know, I gave a typical example of that of Victoria Island years back. Then, although they sanfish some areas. Now, how many of you have been to College of Fisheries?
yes.
Been to that area?
Yes, sir. Eco Atlantic.
Yes. All those areas have been sand-filled. They are swampy area. So they have been sand-filled to build all those mighty mansions there. So that is natural, human activity or human-made. In percentage, the natural occurrence cannot be up to 3 to 5%. But 95% is virtually caused by human activities. In addition to that, you know, when the ozone layer is being weakened, or when gases are being released into the air, it mixes with the water in the air and cause serious rainfall. That is human activities. You know, naturally, you may say, it's the rain that causes it. No. But there is a kind of accumulation of gases in the air by human activities that result in serious downpour that now result in flooding. Do you get it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now back to the question, what can you say about this? Yes.
I personally, I think this is a serious case, and I've been thinking of ways that this kind of situation could have been avoided, but nothing is actually coming to mind because this one is serious. Oh.
It can be avoided. One,
Okay.
if most of the canal or drainage are not blocked, or when most of the discharge into the marine environment are minimized. For example, the release of plastic bottles, sewage disposal, chemicals, and what have you. All these contributed to that. And at the same time, you see that they sandfield this area. All this area, it was being sandfilled, trying to drive back the water. So when the water actually rise to a particular point at the other end, when he could not, enjoy it any longer, that is when it actually fought back.
So that is the elastic limit of the water.
Yes, of the water. Now look at this building there with the green roof. People are inside though, and it clear all the people inside. You see, it carried the whole building. So that's why, we need to take the problem of pollution seriously. We need to make campaign to ensure that people are so conscious about their environment, about the pollutant being released in the water, about the waste. Most of this plastic can be recycled. Most of the things that are being dumped into the water body can be recycled and used for other things. Look at people are inside that vehicle. Now look at the building. It carried the whole building. And you see, it has actually immersed the building and is carrying it.
Yes, sir.
Can you see? So invariably is a serious problem. And that's why this course is very important, just for you to know the level of pollution in the marine environment and the control measures. In part A, we discuss about most of the control measures. Look at it. Properties and human lives are being wasted because of this. So we need to take pollution serious in our marine environment. Okay, do we have any question before we call it a day? Any question?
So I was
None
wondering
from me,
if
sir.
maybe if they had used the bulkheads or seawalls to protect the surrounding, if it would have helped a bit.
Okay, they can use seawalls. Building a heap of stones that will be so resistant to it. But notwithstanding, when you look at the other side, there are walls there like mountain. I think the water is even flowing, but they have really encroached. Now, the problem may not be from this particular state or country. It's a marine environment is flowing. It may be water body that's actually flowed through the most of the countries. So this may be the effect when the water level actually rise to a particular level, which we call elastic limit. This is what always results to it. But they can also build walls, you know, to prevent it, so that when water is coming, it will actually bounce back. But that one was not, you know, taken into consideration in this process. And to tell you, the whole town was destroyed.
Sorry, sir. Is there a way to like find out the elastic limit of like a particular lagoon or something?
You see, yes, you can actually know because of the tidal movement. When you notice that the tidal movement is actually jumping, excuse me. Now, have you been to Bar Beach before?
Yes, sir.
Now, you notice that there is a kind of influx of wave of water that always move to the shore. Have you noticed that?
Yes, yes.
Sometimes, if you are not very careful, it can carry somebody. You notice that?
Yes, sir.
Aha. So at that point, when you notice that, okay, the water is now getting to a place where years before it's not getting to, then you begin to know too well that, okay, it seems that the water level is rising. And barricades should be made to prevent that. And that's the only way you can know.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, when the wave movement of the water is getting to where it was not getting to before. If it's getting to where it's not getting to before, you know too well that there is increase in water level.
These are
So
the things I'll be watching when I go to beach now.
You said?
I said these are the things I'll be watching out for whenever I go there, go to Bar Beach now.
Yes, you have to watch out because of the wave movement. Some people are so careless, they will say, let me enjoy, you know, the wave movement. Accidentally, they don't know how to swim. Even those people that know how to swim, always carry them, in which they will not be able to control themselves. Okay, we call it a day here. If there's no any other question, we meet next week, Wednesday.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
So
sir.
good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night,
Nice.
sir.
Nice.
Yeah.